I'm not a scholar. I really am not. I get deeply offended when people call me sheikh. I have like 8 people call me sheikh today. I don't know, man. Stop it. But it's become a relative term. Everybody's sheikh nowadays, right? So, but understand, there's a difference between people that are somewhat knowledgeable, that may know a little more than you do, and actual scholars, actual research scholars, you know? And we have to show respect to that. Nowadays, the standards of Islamic studies have dropped so much that we are willing to call pretty much anybody a scholar. Pretty much. And even the institution, I'm going to just say something bold. I just have to say what I feel, what I'm convinced of. The academic standards of many Islamic institutions in the Muslim world that are supposedly producing scholars have dropped dramatically. They have dropped dramatically. I've met ulama, for example, from Egypt, or ulama from India, that are like in their 80s and 90s. And when you ask them about the same madrasa they graduated from, what do you think about it nowadays? They say, what we did in before we got to the madrasa is the graduate now. You know, the standards have dropped. I met an alim from India in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio. You know, I didn't know he's an alim. He just, after the seminar, he just starts talking to me. He's quoting the Zamakhshari, the linguistic, tafsir of Quran. He's quoting it but from memory. He's just talking to me, and I was like, where did you go to school? That's incredible. He knows like thousands of lines of Jahili poetry by heart. This Indian scholar, right? And he's just chilling. He lives with his grandkid. He's not an imam or nothing. He's just a guy, hanging out, uncle. They call him uncle. And he says, yeah, what we did in the first year, now they do in the 9th year. They do in the 9th year. The standards have dropped. The standards of what is considered a scholar in many institutions has dropped. And in some institutions it's scary, wallahi it is scary. I have met people from institutions that have graduated, that are touting themselves as imam and sheikh and scholar, and are saying all kinds of ridiculous things. But when you sit them down with an ayah of the Quran and you say, can you explain this grammar to me please? How do you get the translation of this? Nothing. When we become shallow in our study of our own deen, when our own deen studies, and those who are supposedly our leaders, their studies themselves are shallow, they're nothing more than empty rhetoric, then we're all in a heap of trouble. All of you need to be pursuing knowledge of Islam, but know what the limits of that knowledge are. Know that you don't know everything. Know that فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. There's someone above, someone who has more knowledge above, Somebody on the way here, I was asked about, whether we can combine Maghrib and Isha. I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to answer a fiqh question. I'm not a faqih. I'm going to know my limits. Young people have to know their limits. When you're young, you think you know everything. I was there too. I've been there. Believe me. Thank God those videos are not on YouTube. So, right? So, that's a really strong bit of advice I have for you. That our narrative is right now being hijacked by trolls underneath YouTube videos and blogger comments on blogs and things, and there are a handful of crazies that are bullying all the rest of us and being quiet because they paint us as sellouts or this or that or the other. But understand, if we're true to our deen and we explain and understand and teach this book the way it's supposed to be taught, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There is no controversy. There's nothing that we need to hide. And so here's my last spiel to all of you. As negative as the environment is, the Messenger ﷺ, you have to believe what he had to face was worse. As tough as times are, what he had to go through was worse. And Allah, in this ayah that I'm sharing with you, Allah Azza wa Jal talks about the people of the book not accepting. He talks about the mushrikun, kabura ala al-mushrikina ma tad'uhum ilayhi, Surah Ash-Shura. It is really big on the people of shirk. They can't accept what you're calling to. It's very hard on them. If somebody else says it's hard on them, they're not going to accept. I'll say, you know what, I'll still try. Allah Himself says it's really hard on them. They're not going to accept. كَبُرَ عَلَى الْمُشْرِكِينَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ. They're not going to accept. Allahu يَجْتَبِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah calls to Him whoever He wants. You could try, but in the end, who's going to bring them to Allah? He Himself. He will guide whoever He wants. وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ يُنِيبُ. And so these challenges are laid out. And then those were external challenges, right? The people of the book, the mushrikun, external challenges in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. The next ayah, وَمَا تَفَرَّقُوا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. They didn't fall into disagreement until after knowledge came, out of arrogance among themselves, out of ego clashes among themselves. People of knowledge will have fights within. This is an external problem or an internal problem? This is an internal problem. People of knowledge fighting each other. We see that in the ummah today or no? We see that problem too. And after listing all of these problems, Allah tells His Messenger just one simple, and as a result of all of this, and therefore, we say and therefore at the end of our speeches, that's the Arabic word fa. And therefore, in conclusion, fa lidhalika, in response to all of that, fastaqim. فَلِذَلِكَ فَادْعُ وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. And in response to all of that, you keep on inviting. And you stay firm like you've been told. وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. You remain where you are like you've been told. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. And don't follow into their vain desires. You know what the ayah, you've heard that ayah before, right? Or this kind of expression before in the Quran. Don't follow their desires, right? I need you to understand what it means here. It means don't get weak in your call and don't become loose in your commitment. Because if you do, that is their desire. You stop making your da'wah, you stop standing up for what is truth in your speech and in your character. That is exactly what the desire of theirs is. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَقُلْ آمَنْتُ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ كِتَابٍ. And say openly and clearly, I have come to believe in what Allah has sent down from a book. وَأُمِرْتُ لِأَعْدِلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. And I have been commanded to do justice between you. What I'm calling for is justice, nothing else. لَنَا أَعْمَالُنَا وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. We have our deeds. They speak for themselves. وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. And you have yours and they speak for themselves. This لَنَا أَعْمَالُنَا وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ, you have to understand what that means. People don't understand the ayah of Surah Al-Kafirun, لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينٍ. You know what deen means? What does deen mean? Anybody know? That's more than that. كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانٍ in classical Arabic. Deen means what you get. You're going to get what you have coming to you, I'm going to get what I have coming to me. That's part of the meaning of لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينٍ. What you're up to, because the surah was Surah Al-Kafirun, right? Your kufr, you're going to get something because of that. And I'm refusing to worship that kufr. So I'm going to get something because of what I'm doing too. That's part of لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينٍ. Here he says, لَنَا أَعْمَالُنَا وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ لَا حُجَّةَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. There's no room for, there's no need to make a case you against me and me against you. You know what? Let's just do what we're doing. لَا حُجَّةَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. And the purpose of that is, don't get tangled into unnecessary debates. Wallahi, they come, there are certain elements, there's a great, by the way, I have to be honest, there's a great majority of the people in this country that are genuinely just not aware of what Islam is. And a huge population among them genuinely curious about what Islam is too. Good people. They're curious about what Islam is. But we haven't gone to the public library and done a seminar on the Quran. How about before you decide to burn it, why don't you learn it? Right? We haven't done that. We didn't do our job. So we have to be honest about that.